What's going on, guys? This is another episode here in Nolan's pod. The NBA Finals started. I did not watch Game 2 last night, so today we are recapping Game 1 since that's the game that I've seen. Um, Obviously, not watching Game 2 last night. It wasn't really much to watch. Thunder took care of business. They did what they needed to do to type the series going to Indiana for Game 3 and 4. So let's recap the best game of the series so far, Game 1. A lot of the things that I told you guys Thursday happened in that game. I was like, I got OKC in 6, but I said don't count Indiana out. And I said don't count Indiana out, and I still have OKC in 6, and a lot of the things that I predicted and I told you guys on Thursday happened in that game, and it was just crazy because I'm like, a lot of the things that happened in that game I told you guys, and it really happened. Tyrese Halliburton just keeps making a name for himself. Every time you guys are counting the Indiana Pacers out, they somehow come back and find a way to shock the world. Any other series that they played, they're not a favorite to win. Not a favorite to win against Milwaukee. Not a favorite to win against Cleveland. Not a favorite to win against the Knicks. And not a favorite to win against OKC. And somehow they got past those three teams. There's only one more team standing in their way. The biggest lead for OKC in this game was 15. And you know, when OKC gets you up like 15 points, they're going to finish you off. It ain't going to be no, we think we have a chance against OKC being that we're down double digits. They're going to usually finish you off. And OKC had the chance to finish the Indiana Pacers off. OKC they couldn't shake Indiana. They couldn't shake Indiana. Every time Indiana needed the big basket, it seemed like Obi Toppin was hitting a key three for Indiana. Or it seemed like, Indiana just hit big shot after big shot when OKC tried to extend that lead and try to gain back momentum. Indiana just kept coming for OKC. Without Obi Toppin, Indiana does not win this game. Obi Toppin comes off the bench and hits 5 3-pointers for 17 points. 5 big 3-pointers for 17 points for Obi Toppin. TJ McConnell came in and did his thing. Thomas Bryant came in and did his thing. Ben Shepherd and Benedict Mathurin didn't have many points, but they did have an impact and they did contribute. And then you got the 5 starters. So one of the key things that I point out in Game 1 is the bench. Indiana's bench definitely outplayed OKC's bench Game 1. Now Game 2, which was last night, I heard that OKC's bench came in and they thrived and they played better than Indiana's bench. So before the series started, I told you guys, both teams have great benches. Which bench is going to be the best? By the first 2 games of this series, it's been both teams. Game 1, it was Indiana's bench. Game 2, OKC's bench. So which bench is going to have the best series? And throughout the 2 games, it's been either or. So going to Game 3, Indiana's bench, the role players play well at home. I expect a lot for Indiana's bench Game 3. Game 3 for OKC's bench, they're going to have to come out and play. Game 3 is going to be the deciding factor of the series, Game 3, and I expect it to be a good game. One other key that I told you guys coming into Game 1 was rebounding. Can the Indiana Pacers out-rebound OKC? Because OKC is a good rebounding team, and they have the double big lineup. Indiana out-rebounded OKC 56-39. Indiana had 13 offensive rebounds to OKC's 10. Why did Indiana out-rebound OKC surprisingly? Mark Dagnall started Casey Wallace in Game 1 in place of Isaiah Hartenstein. we were all under the impression that Hartenstein was going to start. It wasn't going to be no lineup change. Mark Daigneault is known for changing his lineup, but it was still surprising, being that you won 68 games and Isaiah Hartenstein was in the lineup for majority of the year. It was surprising, and I don't know why Daigneault made that move, because it didn't work game one, and they were severely out-rebounded in game one. And in game two, Mark Daigneault, he stuck with it. He stuck with it though. Game two, Mark Daigneault stuck with it. I give him credit. A lot of media said after game one, Isaiah Hartenstein should be going back in there to start game two, and that wasn't the right move. And Daigneault, he stuck with it. He started Casey Wallace again and brought Hartenstein off the bench for game two. And OKC tied up the series. So, it'll be interesting to see for game three. Does Daigneault stick with Casey Wallace, or does he go back to the double big lineup with Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren? Another key factor in this loss for OKC was Indiana hit 18 threes, and they shot 46% from three. OKC only hit 11 threes. That was good for 36%. But if a team's going to hit 18 threes to almost 20 threes in the NBA, you're more than likely going to win that game. OKC did not do a good job of defending the three-point line. OKC's defensive game plans are always, they're not going to really come out and contest you. They like to clog up the paint and defend the paint more than contesting three-point shots. But Indiana's also a good three-point shooting team, so something has to give. Another reason why OKC lost the game, they only had 13 assists throughout the total game. Indiana had 24 assists throughout this total game. I'm pretty sure in game two, OKC did a better job of passing the ball and getting assists. In Indiana, with all their five guys are going to score, their starting five, Indiana's going to score at least 10 to 15 points. So, of course, they're passing the ball, whipping the ball around the horn always. Indiana got very lucky that they came back and won this game, because in the first half, what did I talk about? In the first half of that game, they did something that I talked to you guys about on Thursday. I said, Indiana's a fast-paced team. They like to get up the court. They like to play fast. Rightfully so. But you got to be in control when you play fast. And especially against this OKC defense, this phenomenal defense that OKC has. It seems like they have 10 guys on the court at one time. This OKC, how they play defense. With this defense, you have to take care of the basketball, and you have to value the possessions. I know in game two, Halliburton had like 5 turnovers. But as far as this game one, in the first half of game one, Indiana had 20 turnovers. 20. And that was a huge reason going into halftime that they put game one, going into halftime. That was a huge reason why Indiana put themselves behind the 8 ball, because they had 20 turnovers against this stacked OKC defense. That was one of the things that I had told you guys. Indiana, y'all can't turn the ball over, especially like that. 20 turnovers in the first half, that had not been done all season long by any team. And Indiana was the first to accomplish that in a game in the NBA Finals. Somehow they still managed to come back and win. You don't see that all the time, every day. In the second half, when they made their comeback, they did better as far as the turnovers go. They in the second half, they only had 5 turnovers, so 25 turnovers total. 20 turnovers the first half, 5 in the second half. So they had only 5 turnovers to make that comeback. They took care of the ball in the second half. And if you listen to Rick Carlisle, he was saying that, Rick Carlisle told him at halftime. He was like, it's all right, guys, calm down, He was like, OKC, they don't have many points off our turnovers, and somehow we're just down by they were down by 9 points at halftime, something like that, over game one. Rick Carlisle didn't get mad. He wasn't upset. He wasn't screaming at the guys at halftime. He was like, it's okay. Calm down. We know we got to take care of the ball. We know what we have to do in the second half. And when you have a coach like Rick Carlisle that's poised and has been there and he's done that and he has the experience and he's not panicking and he's not yelling at these guys are going to come out and they're going to respond to that. And they're not, and that means they're not going to have any panic. Another reason OKC lost this game was because of the turnovers. Indiana had 25 turnovers. You know how many points OKC scored off of the Indiana Pacers' 25 turnovers? OKC only scored 4 points off of Indiana's 25 turnovers. I wrote that down, and when I looked at that stat and I wrote that down, I had to double check just to make sure that I wasn't tripping. And just to make sure that I was writing the right thing down. Indiana had 25 turnovers, and OKC only scored 4 points off of the 25 turnovers that Indiana had. OKC only had 7 turnovers. Indiana scored 11 points off of OKC's 7 turnovers. That's another reason why you get a team to turn the ball over that many times, you have to score points on the other end and capitalize off the turnovers. If OKC had done that, they would have maintained a 15-point lead. They would have gone on. They would have smoked Indiana. I'm telling you they would have. But they, for the life of me, they could not score any points off of Indiana's 25 turnovers. That was crazy to me. OKC had 14 steals to Indiana's 1. Just that suffocating OKC defense, man. Blocks. Indiana had 7 blocks to OKC 6. Fast break points. 11 fast break points for OKC to Indiana's 10. Points in the paint. 46 points in the paint for OKC to Indiana's 34. And then the largest lead of the game for OKC was 15. The largest lead of the game was Tyrese Halliburton's game-winning shot for Indiana, which was 1. That was their largest lead with 0.3 seconds. So Indiana only led for 0.3 seconds in this game. TJ McConnell came off the bench for 9 points, 4 assists, 1 rebound, 4 for 6 from the field, 1 for 3. He was being the pest that he usually is TJ McConnell. He had an impact off the bench, so did Benedict Mathurin and Ben Shepherd. Thomas Bryant, 5 points off the bench, 2 for 2 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3. Obi Toppin, as I mentioned to you guys earlier in the podcast, 17 points, 2 assists, 5 rebounds, 6 from 9 from the field, 5 from 8 from downtown, as Obi hit 5 huge threes when Indiana needed it the most. Aaron Neesmith, 10 points, 12 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 from 9 from the field, 3 for 7 from downtown for Aaron Neesmith. Miles Turner, 15 points, 9 rebounds, 5 for 10 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3 from Miles Turner. Pascal Siakam, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 7 for 15 from the field, 1 for 2 from downtown. Nembhard and Tyrese Halliburton both had 14 points each. Nembhard had 6 assists, and he had 4 rebounds, 4 from 11 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3. Halliburton, 14 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 for 13 from the field, and 2 for 7 for 3 for Halliburton. Halliburton was a virtual no-show in this game until the fourth quarter. At that, Andrew Nembhard only had 14 points. He was only 4 from 11 from the field. He was 2 for 6 from downtown. Andrew Nembhard in that fourth quarter, he brought Indiana back. And we're going to give a lot of love to Andrew Nembhard on this podcast because he brought Indiana back in that fourth quarter. Had Andrew Nembhard not went off in that fourth quarter, Indiana would not have won that game without Andrew Nembhard going off in that fourth quarter. When him and SGA, they're both the Canadian teammates on Team Canada, so they had their battles with each other. When they kind of was pushing and shoving each other, and Nembhard shoved SGA back, that kind of got Nembhard going. And that kind of frustrated SGA because you don't normally see SGA get into those little type of skirmishes like that and react to things. He never really does that. And Nembhard got him to react to something. And Nembhard got SGA to push him back. And that kind of got SGA kind of thrown off his game a little bit. And that got Andrew Nembhard going. When that fourth quarter came, Andrew Nembhard couldn't be stopped. He hit big shot after big shot. So we're going to give a lot of love to Andrew Nembhard for bringing Indiana back. Because without him, they would have lost that game. Not only that, I wanted to give Nembhard love because Halliburton didn't do anything. He really didn't do much. He was efficient. He had 14 points for 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 for 13 from the field, 2 for 7 for 3. He was efficient, but Halliburton, he has to be more aggressive and shoot the ball more, and that was a problem in game 2. He needs to be aggressive and shoot the ball more. But when it was game 1 and it counted the most, and they needed him to hit that game-winning shot, he went down and hit it. He had the signature shot against Milwaukee. He had the signature shot against Cleveland. He had the signature shot against the Knicks. And he just did it in the finals, game 1. And you have to give another reason why Indiana won this game. And I mentioned this to you guys on Thursday. I told you guys, Dagnall, he's a good coach. But Rick Carlisle has the experience. He's been there. He's done that. He's seen it all. And coaching is going to be a key factor in this series. And I told you guys I'm taking experience over youth and somebody who hasn't been there and done it before, Dagnall. And one thing that I want to give credit to Rick Carlisle about that I mentioned to you guys anyway is that during halftime, it was no panic. He like, all right, guys, we know what we need to do. We need to stop turning the ball over, but we know what we need to do. And as long as we keep following our game plan, we're okay. It wasn't no yelling. It wasn't no screaming. He was calm. He was cool. And he was collected. And when his team came out in the second half, they were calm, cool, and collected. The last play when Neesmith got the rebound and he gave it to Halliburton, I was already screaming at the TV, call timeout, Rick Carlisle, call timeout, timeout. Do they have a timeout? Call timeout, call timeout. I think they had one. They had like one timeout left. I like, call timeout, call timeout. You know what Rick Carlisle did? He let his guys play. And that was smart. That's how Halliburton got that shot. He let his guys play. After Neesmith got the rebound, he gives it to Halliburton. Halliburton comes down the court. Rick Carlisle lets them play. Game-winning shot, Halliburton. Instead of Rick Carlisle calling timeout, he let them play. Had Rick Carlisle called timeout, yes, he can drop a play, and that's good. You can drop a play. But with this great OKC defense, it gives OKC's defense a chance to set their defense. And Rick Carlisle didn't call that timeout because he didn't want OKC setting up their defense. He like, go ahead and play. So OKC's defense can be in scramble mode. That's what I'm talking about. The experience and Rick Carlisle and being there and has done that before. That's what I'm talking about. Rick Carlisle outcoached Mark Dagnall game 1. Dagnall should not have started Cason Wallace game 1. He should have started Hartenstein. That's why they got out-rebounded. Rebounding was a big factor in this game. It was 56-39. They bullied Dagnall into changing his starting lineup before a series had been played in the finals. That was very interesting. That was inexperience right there on Dagnall's part. On the flip side, Rick Carlisle, the experience. For OKC, Isaiah Joe had 5 points on 2 for 3 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3. Caruso, being the pest and defensive stopper that he is, 11 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 for 5 from the field, 1 for 3 from downtown. Hartenstein off the bench, 9 points, 9 rebounds, 3 for 5 from the field. Cason Wallace, 6 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 for 9 from the field. Lugens Dort, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 5 for 10 from the field, and all 5 of Lou Dort's field goals were 5 threes. J-Dub, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 for 19 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. J-Dub, listen to this again, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 for 19 from the field, 1 for 4 for 3. Chet Holmgren, 6 points, 6 rebounds, 2 for 9 from the field. What did I tell you guys on Thursday? Who else is it going to be other than SGA? It has to be J-Dub. It has to be Chet Holmgren. They didn't give you anything. Only 6 points for Chet Holmgren. 17 points for J-Dub, but he was 6 from 19 from the field. I told you guys on Thursday, if those two guys don't give you anything other than SGA, OKC is in trouble. And that's another reason why OKC lost this game. And I told y'all that on Thursday. Lou Dort should not have had a better game than J-Dub and Chet Holmgren. That should not never happen. SGA had 38 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 14 for 30 from the field, and 3 for 6 from downtown for SGA. You know SGA is going to do what SGA does. He's the MVP. We get that. We know that. One other thing I want to point out for Rick Carlisle and his team. I was like, Rick Carlisle, what are you doing with Andrew Nembhard being on SGA? Why is Aaron Nesmith not on SGA? And you know what Rick Carlisle did? He stuck with that, and he kept having Andrew Nembhard guard SGA. And you know what? Nembhard did a nice job on SGA. No, you're not going to stop SGA, but you can try to get in his head and try to contain him just a little bit. And once that little pushing and shoving that they had went on, Nembhard really took the challenge, and he guarded SGA, and he stopped SGA from scoring. In that fourth quarter, it was a possession that SGA had a chance in the final minutes of the game. Had he hit that mid-range shot, he would have put his team up by 3 points. And Andrew Nembhard was guarding him, and he forced SGA to miss. And that's what got Nesmith the rebound and then the Halliburton game winner. Had SGA hit that shot, it would have been a 3-point game. The best Indiana would have did was been able to tie with a 3. So hats off to Rick Carlisle and his coaching staff for leaving Nembhard on SGA instead of putting Nesmith on SGA. Shout out to Rick Carlisle for that. Like I said, I didn't watch game 2 last night. The series is 1-1. OKC did bounce back. I was just recapping game 1 for you guys. With that, game 3 is Wednesday. So we'll preview that. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about the first 2 games in this series. And we are out of here.